This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to Keyed In Podcast with Max Rabin and Brent Jackson. I'm Max Rabin.
I'm Brent Jackson.
Brent, what's up, man? How are you this week?
I'm doing well. It's a little chilly here in Washington, D.C. It's a sunny day, but it feels like it's winter out there. I need my winter parka.
I turned on my space heater in here. I don't know if anyone can hear it in the studio, but it's like a new background noise effect for the studio. So I apologize to our listeners immediately for the space heater. But when we get cold, we get cold. I'm sorry.
So it
It
feels
is
like
what
a
it is,
sauna if we're to pop over into your office.
you know? Um, so I don't know. I mean, what's been going on in the market for you, Brent, lately? Anything like popping for you? Anything shaken up as we get closer to Thanksgiving and Christmas?
It's still all over the map. So we're working with a lot of sellers. 70% of our business is from listings.
Mhm.
We have a couple things that aren't moving. I'm sharing the stats from September where roughly 20% new listings came on, 13% less new pendings. That inverse relationship. Uh, sellers think their place should sell within a day or two. So I'm like, hey, look, it might take a couple of more days. It might take a couple of more weeks. That's okay. It's still a seller's market. And then we have an anomaly up in Chevy Chase, which is a mid-century modern. It's had 65
Mm.
showings in a couple of days, 10 pre-inspections, offers due this evening. And, there's that side of the equation as well. How about you?
Um, I think I'm still like around 50-50 buyers, sellers right now, and wrote an offer for a really nice house in Capitol Hill, very popular location in DC. And I was expecting pretty hot action on that one. Were 5 offers, but it didn't escalate like I would have imagined. Maybe in the springtime, I was for certain it would be like 100,000 plus escalation, and it was only, I think it was less than 50. Um, and that's maybe a sign that things are relaxing. In fact, I heard one of the offers came in below the asking price in a multiple offer situation. Who knew that was possible?
With a home sale contingency.
I mean, what's that? So all right, let's introduce our guest today. Our guest he's sitting right there for our viewers who can watch the video. Andrew Riguzzi. He's a founding member of the District Property Group. He's with Compass Real Estate. Andrew not only understands what his clients need, but intrinsically what they want. And outside of real estate, a few words, some of his interests. He's into food. I mean, if you look at this guy's Instagram, I think it's all food. It's like 99% food, travel, baking, wine. He's a little bit of a renaissance man. We're going to find out today. All right. And Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm interested to see what not an outsider, because we've known each other for a while,
Mhm.
thinks about when you look at somebody else's social media.
Well, let's let's start with that. So a lot of realtors. So we talked a lot about social media on our podcast in general, and we all look at each other's social media and we notice like, oh, they've got a new listing, or they're inside this house, or they're wherever the hell they are. But you really, it's more of your personal life. It's more about the things that you're really the most interested in, such as food and art. So why, instead of having like the typical real estate type of feed on your social media, is this a strategy of yours, or are you just like, this is what you enjoy?
It's not, yeah, it's more about what I enjoy. I mean, I think about everybody doing, and especially I know you've got the TikTok, and you had Daniel Hyder in here who's got a real big presence on social media. And while we engage in that sort of marketing and media, it's it's not a it's not an aspiration for me, right? I think it's worth investing. I think you need to get yourself out there that way. But for me, when I market myself and when I connect with my clients, I do so in a different way. And I guess that kind of leads me to my Instagram, right? When given the opportunity to invest in a social media platform or invest in, any advertising or marketing, I'd really prefer to invest in my clients. And I do that a lot by eating and drinking with them, right? I mean, I think
Hmm.
it's a really way to really get to know your clients and, be able to kind of hash out the experience they just went through. I mean, I
Sure.
know that we all sell houses on a regular basis and it's just normal to us. closings, inspections, seeing stuff. But that happens to our clients once, twice, 5 times maybe in their life, right?
Yeah.
And it's an experience that they have, and they kind of want to rehash it at the end of the day. And being able to relive that with them over a dinner, over a meal, hang out, is what gets me excited, right? Learning about your clients.
So if I'm working with Andrew Riguzzi, so that's part of the deal. So if I list my house with you and we're done with the listing, I get to go to a Michelin star
Sushi
restaurant.
bar.
Is that it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nice.
Because I think that it's again, it's building the connection, right? My clients are my best advertisers, right? If my clients don't walk around with the I Heart Andrew shirt on, ringing their I Heart Andrew bell, right,
Mhm.
and carrying their I Heart Andrew sign, I screwed up, right? Because
Yeah.
they're the ones
Fair
out there.
enough.
They're the ones beating the street for me. I mean, I've had referrals from people. I, I don't know how they got to me. I recently had a referral where somebody was at a bar talking about real estate. Somebody turned over next to them and said, "Hey, I know the real estate agent you have to use. His name's Andrew Riguzzi," and provided a connection. I have no idea who that person is.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that story.
It's good.
So
I remember early on, I think not early on, it was probably a couple years ago, and this is a different platform to advertise on. You have what is it, the Darth Vader, this what is that called? The Darth ship or the Dark ship? What is that thing called? Anyway, it's Zillow. Zillow. That's from
So
West Virginia. Like, so don't get too much into
the
the
Death
weeds there.
Star. The
The
Death
Death Star.
Star.
yeah,
Yeah. So you have. We were thinking about investing in Zillow, and we came to you because you have a big presence on Zillow, or you did. And your first comment to us still rings true. It's like people could care less about you on Zillow and your successes in the past. They don't care if you're number one, if you're number 100. They're contacting you on Zillow to go see that property that they're inquiring about. They don't want to know that you're vice president, senior vice president, number one of sales. You've got to be their number one priority to get them into that house and to show them that house and to be their advocate.
100%. I mean, I did an experiment a while back where I said, "Look, I'm going to deploy $100,000 of marketing money. And I'm going to do it in a bunch of different ways,
Okay.
right? I'm going to run my business like a business. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to invest here, 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 and here. And one of those avenues was Zillow.
Mhm.
And when I advertised on Zillow, I failed. I failed my first year. O for O, not one transaction out of it.
Well, you
Okay.
were getting the leads though, so you're paying for like X percentage of a zip code or
Sure.
whatever. Yeah.
Sure. You're paying to make the phone ring,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And the reason why I failed is because I thought I had credibility, because I am who I am. I have, at the time I had 10 years of knowledge in the market.
Right.
Guess what? They don't know that, and they don't
Yeah.
care. You have to start from zero,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
totally
once you
random.
start, yeah, exactly. And once you realize that you have to start from zero, then all of a sudden it changed, right? And there are so many of those, so many of those stories, right? I mean, things where you think you're doing the right thing and you don't, right? There are so many mistakes I made in my real estate career, right? And there are successes too, right? I've had more successes than failures, but the successes roll off my back, right? The failures haunt me, and they shape my day-to-day life. I
Yeah,
mean,
we talk about that a lot. How those failures they eat at you much more than the ones that were easy to give you pleasure. It's the hard ones that really push you along. It's strange that way.
it is. I mean, I think, I don't want to say it's a bit sadistic, but to me, I like that part of me, right? I don't want to be the guy walking around talking about, oh, I did this, I did so well, I did all these things and bragging. No, I want to tell you the funny story about how I failed so epically. It's like an amazing story, right? And those are the things that I think they keep us humble, right? They keep us
Mhm.
connected. And hopefully I have an entertaining anecdote to tell you over a dinner party.
Well, that's smart. Again, I'm a huge sports fanatic, and I think I've mentioned this before, but that same analogy with Michael Jordan, right? Like, not that he bring all of his like fanfare to his Hall of Fame speech. He brought everybody that was an obstacle for him to get to where he was, right? So even at a billionaire basketball player that's labeled the greatest ever still has a very humble side to him as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
I appreciate you likening me to Michael Jordan. Well,
Well,
it feels really great. And I'm from Chicago too, so I've got that
uh-oh.
connection also.
Well, that perfect segue. Like, yeah, I don't know where you're from. Like, tell us where you're from. Like, give us a little origin story here for Andrew.
Oof.
Oof.
So I grew up outside of Chicago.
Okay.
All those uh, John Hughes movies were filmed kind of in and around where we grew up.
Ferris
So I had
Bueller's
a
Day Off.
really, yep, Ferris Bueller's Day Off was filmed at my high school. Part of it was.
Mhm. Okay.
So we had a really storybook upbringing. I was a questionable student, always a worker, always had a job, worked a string of weird, odd jobs. Um, Moto photo, was a mechanic for a while, catered with my mom. Um,
What is a moto photo? I'm just curious.
Oh, stop.
oh,
That
that
Brent,
you're just
I was gonna stop you anyway, Andrew, because there might be some younger listeners who have no idea what moto
Yeah,
photo
I don't
is.
know what moto photo. I'm thinking.
let
I don't
me
know what it is.
Andrew,
I don't want
go
to give you my
ahead.
elevator pitch on Moto Photo, but it is a 1 hour photo place and portrait studio. When I
There
started
you go.
working there, I think I was 14, and I within my first year was the number one portrait salesperson.
Look at you.
Right, I was selling more heritage packages than anyone else there. Right. Um,
Brent, you could drive into like a strip mall and drive up to this hut in the middle of the strip mall, and you could drop off your film from old film cameras and have them developed in whatever, man, portraits, your little like
I
five by
d-
sevens or what. I don't even
yeah.
remember what the
I mean, I'm
sizes.
older. Like I should know what a moto photo,
We're
but
the
maybe in
same
West
age.
Virginia we didn't have moto photos. I don't know.
I mean, maybe you guys had like a 2 hour photo, which was
Yeah,
like
I
we would
remember
crush
Kodak.
that competition all the time.
It's okay, Brent.
That's
You don't
funny.
need to apologize for not knowing moto photo. It's okay.
But yeah, then again, and kind of one of the funny things as I was thinking about this is I wasn't very good at school, and I think my parents kind of let me off the hook because I was a hustler and I worked really hard at my job, and they saw that I had pride in that. So I think they were like, "All right, look, we know that he is not going to be a brain surgeon. Like we're fully aware of that, but we know that he's working really, really hard at something that he has passion for. So we're going to let him run with that."
Yeah.
Um, so from there, I went to University of Iowa and did the bare minimum to get by and get a degree because I knew I wasn't going to excel at school. I just wanted to get out into the real world and get a job. From there, my first job was Enterprise Rent-A-Car. An awesome first job.
Yeah.
It taught me so many things. They let you run your office like it was Andrew's Rent-A-Car, right? You could
Right.
set prices, you could do all these things. It was extremely entrepreneurial. And that really, I think, really got me into real estate and got me interested about that. On top of that, the person who brought me to real estate was my aunt. My mom. And when I say aunt, I want to qualify this because my mom is one of 10.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Wow.
right. We will never see a generation like that ever again. But
I don't think so.
either way, my mom is near the top and my aunt is near the bottom. So my aunt is 14 years older than I am.
Okay.
We'd always been close growing up. She was one of the only people that no matter how old I was, she always treated me like an adult,
Mhm.
which is alarming when you're 13, right? But really satisfying when you're 15, 16, 17.
Yeah. Sure.
She was out in Washington, D.C., starting a company. And she said, "Hey, come out and work for me." And I went out one weekend and I came home and woke up that next day at 4:30 for my job at Enterprise. And then, several funny things ensued. We had a terrible day. Somebody stole one of our cars. We had to repo it back ourselves.
Mm.
And I was coming back home at like 6, and literally my head was so tired. Like I wanted to put my head on the kitchen table. I was so tired. And I said, why not give this a shot? I packed everything I owned into my dad's 1994 Honda Accord, which he let me borrow, or I would have had nothing, right?
Sure.
And I drove it cross country to Washington, D.C. And that's how I started in real estate.
So this is your
Now, the
early
thing,
20s, right? Early
my early
20s.
20s. Now,
Yeah.
what you may not know, Max, is
Mhm.
that my first client that I ever worked with was a rental client, and it was a property in which you were the agent and you were the owner.
Oh,
Oh,
do tell.
wait. Oh, that's all. This is there's a
This is a
lot of, there are
This is
many
a throwback.
many stories that
Many
come from
stories that
this.
devolved from there. But let me tell the one that I remember most, right? Which is that I was going to preview this rental listing,
Sure.
and I had on the only nice shirt I owned, which was literally a nightclub shirt. It had a big stupid collar,
Your
right?
club shirt.
It had too much things going on it. I'm pretty sure there was like some silver in there. And I
A
was
red jacket,
going
Fight Club.
to show this property.
Mhm.
And I was extremely frustrated because the agent wouldn't answer his phone. And when he told me something, it wasn't in the right place. And I was calling Max, and I'm like, Max, I'm outside your listing. I can't get in. The lockbox is broken. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Turns out I'm at the wrong property.
You were across the street at the other
I
building.
was across the street.
That's
And
funny.
I was like, and Max came on. He's like, hey, dum dum, here are the keys. And to me, I was just like,
Wait, I showed up in person?
you did show up in person because you're like, because you lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I live down the street.
Yeah.
Right.
I can hear him saying that too. Hey, dum dum.
He didn't say that.
No, I didn't say
But
that.
when he looked at me, that's how I felt. He was talking.
I looked him up and down with the club shirt on. I was like, "Here you go, bro. There you go."
Yeah. Yeah. Look at this moron. Right. But yeah. That was I thought you'd appreciate that.
And look at you now. You
Look at
know,
me now. Right. I've got a white shirt on.
a normal shirt.
You got a normal shirt.
No, I didn't realize that was your first like real estate transaction. I had no idea. I thought I just that's a great story. I'm glad you remember that
Oh
because
yeah. I
that's
remember all
amazing.
those embarrassing things.
It's good. Yeah.
But from there, I started at my aunt's firm because I didn't have any money. I did maintenance projects around the office for money. I redid the tiling in the front walk. I assembled desks.
Mhm.
I did some painting, which I realized I was terrible at, just to kind of have some pocket money until things started off, and they didn't. I mean, I'm confident in my ability to work, and I worked really, really hard for a year and made, I think it was $14,000.
Wow.
And I was 2 seconds away from packing it up and having to go back and face my family, face my friends who I'd left to go out and do these things. I mean, I was broke. I mean, I was so broke. I went into Starbucks to get a cup of coffee, and I tried each one of my credit cards, and they got declined. And I had to put the coffee down and walk
Damn.
out of
Wow.
Starbucks. Right? This is like, by the way, first thing, why was I at Starbucks? That was another stupid
Yeah,
question.
that's one of those.
I should have been getting a coffee at 7-Eleven, right?
Mhm,
like a
mhm.
normal, broke person. But so that all that happened. I failed epically.
Where are you living during this time?
Okay.
I can't even.
This is gonna sound much worse than it actually is. Okay. So I was living with my aunt at the time. She happened to be living in the Ritz at the moment.
Oh well.
Wow.
So yes, there is a subsequent story there, which I will let her tell you on another podcast.
But your rags to riches story. This is where should we might have to. We're gonna leave this in. I'm sorry. But
you can. The next part of the story you'll have to talk to my aunt about.
Yeah, he was staying in his car in the garage of the Ritz Carlton.
Right. Okay. Fine.
The amusing thing about that again was that I had my dad's. Think about this: that 1994 Honda Accord with a Garmin stuck onto the windshield, right? Because I didn't have navigation, and I was in a city where I didn't know where I was going.
Yeah. Old school.
And you couldn't park your own car. They parked it for you.
Oh yeah.
So I valeted my car.
Your Civic
funny.
with the Garmin.
Exactly. It was ridiculously embarrassing, but still, it shaped who I am. So I'll take it. But yeah, then literally the next month, I was met with a lot of successes. I was able to pay off my debt. I was able to pay back the money that my parents lent me. Um, and then I kind of started building a career from there.
Yeah.
Um, and I was thinking about this, about the way over, because when I did get some success, I did something that I thought successful people did, which is I went and bought myself a penthouse apartment in Georgetown
Okay.
at the height of
Like the top of the
The
condo
market.
market
at
here,
the top of the
2006,
condo market.
2007, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it was a little bit after that, right?
Oh, okay.
So when did you join, or when did you get into the market? So I started in about 2000 and I don't know, 5 or 6. So you were before me.
I think I was right at 2006.
Okay.
I think I was right at 2006. Um,
So
so
you
I
bought an expensive
I
or
bought this.
a
I
slightly too
bought this
expensive condo.
slightly too expensive condo. Uh, I my mortgage, I couldn't get a traditional mortgage, so the developer lent
Interest.
me the money, interest
Oh,
only,
wow. Yeah.
and 100%, and the interest rate went up 1% every year,
Yikes.
right?
Yeah.
And I got in that apartment, and I got that $5,500 monthly payment, and I thought, I made it, right? I thought, oh, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I realized that I did not appreciate that place $5,500 a month.
Mhm.
I said to myself, I would rather live in a studio apartment and eat out at the time it was Marcel's, right? That was the nicest place
Sure.
in Washington, D.C. If I went there and I ate at Marcel's, I would come out ahead, right?
Okay.
If I lived in a studio apartment for $2,000 or $1,500
Yeah.
and I could eat out at Marcel's every night, I would be a happier person, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that also, that $5,500 mortgage didn't allow me to do the things that I wanted to be able to do, right? I couldn't do the marketing, I couldn't do the advertising, I couldn't invest in myself.
Sure.
So did you do that? Did you sell the penthouse, move into a studio, and eat at Marcel's every night for a year?
I did a very close version of that. So I went from
But
there.
you certainly sold the condo, right?
I sold the condo,
yeah.
and as luck would have it, by the way, you ever want to really, really question yourself as a real estate agent, if your property that you put on the market doesn't have one showing for 40 days,
Yikes.
right? You
Yeah.
want that to rattle you rattle your profession, yourself, right? Your
Mhm.
self-worth, right? Try to tell people that your condo isn't selling, right? That's not a good feeling. But long
Well,
story
I've been
short,
there.
yeah, right. 40
Mhm.
days on the market, nothing. I get two people same day. They both come in and put cash offers, right?
Okay.
So I end up doing well, right? I end up walking away with a lot of money. They handed me a check, and it was $100,000, which was more money than I'd ever seen.
Right.
And then I went and lived way downtown in the cheapest apartment I could find that had parking at like $1,850 a month.
Okay.
And I took that $100,000 and I was like, I'm gonna find some way to invest this. And sure enough, I ended up buying a $85,000 house in Fort Washington.
Okay. Interesting choice.
Because I had the knowledge, right? During this whole time when I was paying this $5,500 a month, I was seeing development opportunities, right? I was seeing my clients buy things. I saw what they liked. I saw what they
Yeah.
didn't like.
Yeah.
I saw where they were willing to pay a premium. And if I had money at that time, I could have used it to invest, to buy a property, to make it into condos, to do all these things, right?
Mhm.
This knowledge that I had just by working with my clients. And then when I got that $100,000, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go take this knowledge that I have, and I'm gonna do something else with it. So I went out, bought this property. But by the way, the day I closed on it, I walked over there feeling big and proud, and the doors hadn't been locked, and I had just picked up the keys that day. The whole time the doors had never been locked to the house.
Whoa.
So I went
Okay.
there to lock it up. And I got there, and the door was just like slightly open. And I was like, it feels weird. I don't know. And then a tiny head poked out, and then it went back in, and then the door flung open, and a man went running out the front, carrying something in his hands, which I was not aware of until he dropped them. And what they were my pipes.
Oh, your
He was
copper pipes from the
cutting
house.
the copper pipes
Wow.
out of my house.
Damn.
And that's how I went from feeling really good about myself to buying this house that I'm going to flip, to slamming my head right back down, to being like, was this the right decision?
Yeah.
I don't know. Right.
So your intention though with the property was to purchase it, do a renovation, flip it. You were going to do that was your business model idea at the time?
That it was using the information that I learned during my job,
Yeah.
right? To then leverage that,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm still working, right? I'm still grinding it out, taking buyers, sellers, like doing every sort of business that I possibly can. Rentals. We still to this day do a tremendous amount of rentals, right? I'm taking all that stuff. But in the meantime, I am like a child and like to be occupied 22 hours a day, right?
Okay.
So I wanted to take this information that I had, right? And I wanted to use it again. I wanted to double down on something else. And having this experience allowed me to then execute that, essentially flipping that house,
Right.
which we did. And I did it, and I did it successfully. And that
Good.
was great, right?
Yeah.
But what I learned then is you have to be lean and mean, right? And lean and mean is not a $5,500 mortgage payment.
For sure.
And from there on until very recently, to 18 months ago. So my real estate career is about 15 years.
Mhm.
I have lived significantly below my means because I've always wanted to be able to leverage the capital and the knowledge that I have to do the next thing, and to invest in my business, and to invest in my team, and to invest in growing. And up until very recently, I used to live in a studio apartment, right?
Yeah.
I bought, fixed up, and rented several apartments over the years, but my mortgage never topped, my monthly output never topped $1,500.
Yeah, then you can keep all your money invested and going to the places you need to. You never have to worry about like, oh, I've got this $5,000, $6,000 a month payment that you can't allocate the resources the same way. And you're taking it to an extreme, but there's something to be said for that. I mean, if you said you're the kind of person who likes to be occupied 22 hours a day, you're not really going to have the time to sit there and enjoy your like awesome view from the penthouse anyway. You're going to get back to work. You're going to be researching opportunities and getting out there and being hands on. So that makes a lot of sense.
And to me, that brings up like a ton of questions, and we can go a bunch of different directions. But to start, are you still flipping properties? I mean, are you still acquiring properties and flipping them on your behalf?
So I am. So we do. There's really three wings of my business,
Okay.
right? So we've got the general real estate sales, right? And though that occupies probably 70% of my time, and is probably 70% of my income, right? And then I have two other wings. I have a development wing, which I have a business partner on, and then I have a leasing and management wing that I have somebody who works for me for. I have a property manager for.
Okay.
So we would do about a project to two projects a year, not a lot, but again, enough to take the things that I learned over the years and again, leverage them, right? And be my own client.
Mm-hmm.
As the market's gotten tighter, it's gotten more and more difficult to develop properties. And to be honest with you, I don't have the bandwidth to be hunting properties on a regular basis. I hunt properties for my client. I'm not very good at hunting properties for me. My development, mostly the things that we did were things that fell in my lap, right? Something came across my desk where I was like, oh, this is interesting.
This is an opportunity. Yeah.
This is an opportunity. And because the market's gotten tighter and tighter, we've had to purchase more and more bizarre assets to reclassify them. For example, I purchased a building that was illegally built as a motel.
What?
Yes. Yes. It's on New York and right? New York and Montana Avenue,
Okay.
right?
Is it 1800 Montana?
1800 Montana
Yeah.
Avenue, right? And it was illegally built by a guy back in '82 as a motel, like motel.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And you could never have a motel over there. So then it sat abandoned. I was told nobody was living there. I purchased it. Turns
Uh-oh.
out people living there.
Mm-hmm.
People living there. That I could tell. I could tell you so many stories on that. Dealing with those people, trying to get people out. I mean, I had a guy swing an axe at me.
Wow.
I had all
Intense.
sorts of crazy things happen to me. But but either way, we then repurposed it as artist workspace. Right.
Nice.
So now we have 10 studios on top, one on the bottom, of artist workspace.
And so you hold that asset, and you're sort of managing that too. You're leasing that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But
That's good.
it's so far outside of what would be a normal, buy a
Right.
house, put 2 condos. But we had to
Yeah.
look in different places like that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
but yeah, but that's now a smaller part of it.
Did you put a moto photo in there?
We
Bring that back.
We actually, here's a quick thing that we did. So we had somebody that wanted to lease the first floor. And the first floor is a big space and it's expensive. I want to say it was like $4,000 a month. That's a lot of money, right?
Sure.
And we had some guy come in and he said, "Look, I'm going to do sip and paints." And I'm like,
Right.
"I don't know what a sip and paint is." And it's essentially you go there and you sip wine and you learn how to paint.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So fast forward, this guy's in the space and the other tenants are complaining about him. And I'm like, "Why are you guys complaining about it? It's sip and paint." And they're like, "It's noisy. There's all these problems. There's trash, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "I think like you guys are being a little too sensitive, my artists."
You artists are being.
You artists getting a little too sensitive. And that's what I was thinking on the inside. So I'm having this conversation with one of the artists and my operations manager sitting next to me. And she's like, "What's this guy's name?" And she Googles him real quick. And I'm facing this way and she's facing this way. So I can't see what her laptop is looking at. But her face gets beet red. And I look and I'm like, "Joyce," and she slowly turns the laptop towards me. And I then realize why her face is so red. Because our founder of the Paint and Sips was doing erotic paint and sips.
Aha. I had a feeling that was going to go that direction.
And he had a lot of skills, but he had one physical skill.
I got you.
Because he was the model.
Right.
And he was he was the subject.
That's what you go to paint.
Yes, that's what you went to paint.
But you didn't you didn't do a Google search for him before you signed the lease.
I made him fill out. That's not that's not part of the leasing application, Max. Right? As you know, DC Fair Housing says.
Well, it's not fair housing; it's a business. But anyway, still,
we did
you have a good story.
We did a deep dive on his application.
Okay.
Right. I should have done a Google search. Stain on me. Right. But now I learned that. That's a lesson I have now going.
But look, these are the stories of real estate. You are out there, you're buying a former motel on 1800 Montana Avenue. You are asking for stories. Okay. You're not asking for some simple thing. Okay. I think it's great.
Yeah. Look, it's, I love my life. I'm entertained every minute of every day. Right.
Sounds like it.
Whether it be by a client or be by a story like this or some problems I have to deal with. There's no question about that.
So you've got.
So going back, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I was going to say that you've got your sales business, which is you're saying is still the core of what you do for business, and you've got some development stuff. You're telling development's a little tougher now. We all know that cost of development has gone up in terms of construction, not to mention acquisitions, very
Sure, sure,
iffy,
sure.
sketchy. And then you've got the property management. I'm interested in the property management side. Property management is one of those divisions of real estate where, especially in a city like DC, we have a lot of very tenant friendly laws, and there's lots of
Mhm.
it's tricky to navigate. As a realtor, especially, you're a licensed realtor. um, you can get into legal situations with tenants. So a lot of realtors won't even touch the property management stuff. You might
Sure.
own properties and manage them yourself as a an investor, but the actual management of properties, as you know, can be very tricky. So how did you get involved in that, and how are you able to maintain that without getting too much trouble?
So this is back into my model of learning one aspect of business to then help advise my other clients going forward, and being active in all, like having my fingers in all pieces of real estate, right?
Hmm.
Because the reason why my clients come to me is because I'm an expert in things, right? And I need to be an expert in all these things. So right with the development, construction, good quality, you understand how much it costs to renovate something. And with the rental side of it, right, it is that clients rent their homes, right?
Yeah.
And it's understanding that model. Now, when I got started in this business, I was doing rentals, right? Because nobody wants to touch a rental, right? It's a terrible, terrible business. It's a terrible way to make money, right?
It's
So
very tough.
it's all the same amount of effort as a sale, but with 1/10 the reward, right?
Right. If that.
So, but when I started, I was going to rent. This woman asked me to help her rent out her place, and it was in the Columbia Women's Hospital.
Hmm.
And I was broke, so of course I took the job on, right? I mean, I was taking any job anybody would send my way ever. And that turned into, she decided not to rent, she decided to sell it. So then I sold that place. Boom,
Okay. There you
check,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Then the next door neighbor saw how much I sold that place for, and I sold that place next door. And then the next one. And then that guy referred me to somebody else.
Hmm.
So in that, if I wouldn't have taken on that rental, I wouldn't have had that string of business. And that's the way I look at the rentals, right? It is something that you do. It may be a loss leader, but it's a way to get in front of somebody. And if you work hard and you show them that you're going to do a really good job for even a small financial benefit, they're going to
Right.
remember you.
Yeah, they're in your pocket at that point.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah, and,
yes.
and they're and they're they're part of your sphere now, right? And in real estate, we do not get rewarded for how hard we work on each of the transactions, right? Some
Right.
transactions are really hard, some transactions are really easy. But look, if you work hard with every single person that's in front of you, and you give them respect, you give them time, you give them knowledge, and you provide a great service, it will come back to you, right? It may be a day, it may be a week, it may be a month, it may be a year, but it will come back to you.
Hmm.
And 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 as I progressed in my business, right, and as I started doing more and more sales volume, I still took on the rentals because I never forgot two things. Number one, I never forgot how I got those clients was through the rental. I also never forgot how it felt to have $0, to have negative dollars in the bank, right?
Sure.
And that feeling follows me all the time, right? And I like to think it may be a curse because there are some things you should let go and there are some things you shouldn't pick up. But to me, it I will never forget that feeling. I will never forget coming home from that Starbucks and laying on the floor of my office and being so upset that I failed. And that's the fuel that pushes me forward every day.
Yeah.
Um
So diving a little bit in it, that's a great, great story. You have a lot of clients, a lot of referrals, and how are you staying in front of these people? Like, what else are you doing marketing wise? We talked a little bit about social media at the outset. We talked about Zillow, but what else are you doing to stay in front of your clients, or just even other your sphere, your geographical farming area? Like, what are you doing?
so again, I as you guys saw, bring this back around to the Instagram, right? Right. I like to eat and hang out with my clients and get to know them intimately like that. So that's one aspect of things. We also have a end of the year gift. This year during COVID, when I wasn't allowed to you know beat the streets with my clients
Sure.
and go
Yeah.
out, I tried to bring them something every quarter, or just bring them things that I thought would be useful to them. In the beginning, it was it was hand sanitizer, right?
Okay.
I sourced, I don't even know how many thousands of bottles, but I sourced and delivered thousands of bottles of hand sanitizer to my
So that's where
clients.
it all went. It went to Andrew
Yes.
Riguzzi's clients.
We brought people those camera covers for their laptops, right? Because I didn't want my
Oh,
clients to be caught literally with their pants down,
yeah.
as we saw some of this. And then most recently, we sent out vaccine card holders, right? And every time we do this, we do it with a kind of a, I like to think of it as a, not self-deprecating, but some sense of humor, right? Because anybody can deliver a vaccine card, but I want to
Right.
put a little bit of my personality on there.
Sure.
So we said, with the vaccine card holders we sent out, we said, this is a package for your next essential document. Put it next to your passport, your will, and your photos of your ex. Right. So
Yeah.
just kind of trying to keep some humor in there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so we do, I like to do a really thoughtful end of the year gift. My gifting looks a lot different than other people, right? People usually try to bring you something that's like a luxury good, a wine, a candle. Candles.
The candle.
Wow,
Yes.
smells nice. I don't think about it that way. I think about it in a way of, what am I going to give you that you're going to look at, use, engage every single day, and it's just going to remind you of me. So, right, we all get referrals, right? If you do a good job, you get a referral. But sometimes your clients forget about you, right? They're at a dinner party, maybe they had a couple glasses of wine, and they forgot that you did such a great job for them. But if you do your best to stay in front of them, right, then they will remember you more often. So my most genius of all gifts was actually a toothbrush. It was the top of the line Sonicare toothbrush.
Okay.
It was like double diamond, whatever. And the reason why I had this toothbrush, I happen to be dating a dentist, but and she
You got a
gave
little
me
hookup.
she gave me a toothbrush, and I was like, hey, I have a toothbrush. Don't give me this. I don't want this. And she's like, number one, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Number two, this is the best toothbrush of all time. And I used that toothbrush, and I was like, this toothbrush is amazing. And I would think about her when I had the toothbrush. I was like, and I said, oh man, I'm gonna buy these for all my clients. And I gave out like 125 Sonicare toothbrushes.
Damn.
Right? And that's something that hopefully your clients use twice a day, right? But they pick it up.
Did you
and it's in
brand
front of
them?
Huh?
Did you
I
brand
did
them?
not. I did not.
Are you still
Oh,
dating this
man.
dentist? I'm
I
curious.
am not. No,
Yeah.
no. That was years and years ago.
So
Years
now,
and years
every
ago.
time you're brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
you're thinking of this dentist.
No. But yeah, we did that. I did a really nice kitchen paring knife.
Sure.
I did most recently we did this was the card. The front card was this has been a tough year. The economy, COVID. So I wanted to bring you, and then opened up the card, and it said balls. Dryer balls, of course. And they were these wool dryer balls
Yeah.
that a friend of mine had given me
Very
that were
popular.
like eco-friendly. They made your clothes smell nice,
Mhm.
and they cut down on the drying time. And I was like, great, dryer balls, right? And now my gifting list has grown and grown. Now we're trying to work with a handful of suppliers to get something, but it to me, it's got to be something that's interesting to me. It's got to be something that I am emphatic about, right? That
Yeah.
literally I picked this thing up and I'm like, this is the most amazing thing I've seen.
No, this is great.
Those
Seriously.
dryer balls are great. My wife just picked them up for our house. I'm like, what is this? So
Yeah.
you just threw 3 of them in there and it works the same. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah,
I like bounce, but I get that, right? It's kind of like it's a thing.
it's a thing, right? It's just
Yeah.
again, it's staying in front of them. I will never give my clients something they can consume.
Well, you're also what you're up to here is it's very personal. I mean, you're very, very personal about this. Whether or not they want the toothbrush or not, this is something that you personally said, wow, this is something that I think is amazing and I want my clients to have it. And it's not the cheapest thing. And sure, it's not some consumable product like, whatever people send out, a
Sure.
candle, brownies, you name it. By the way, I send out some brownies, so don't judge. Let's not judge. They do like them. They say they like them.
If
But
I do
anyway,
cookies, anything edible for me, it's like cake, cookie,
Yeah.
pie. So
But
yeah.
Look,
anyway, no, I love that it's so personal. And then, yeah, obviously, you're taking the time to do this, because that's another part of it. It does take time to the gift part. As much as you can say, well, all I have to do is purchase these things and make sure they get where they're going. It's not as easy as that. To think about something and make sure the logistics for all that happen, even for 100, 200 people, is more than you think. It's a
oh
lot
yeah, I
of
mean,
that's work.
exactly, because we're not just sending you a dryer balls, right? So I'm bringing the product into my office, right? We are packaging it, we're
Yeah,
branding it, right?
yeah,
So I can't just give you this thing, right? It's got to have a message. Why am I emphatic about this? Why should you love this, right? And here's why we're bringing it to you. And by the way, every piece of that box that comes to you, like, it's a branded sticker, it's a branded label, it's a branded box, it's a card, right? So all these things
takes
on
time.
there are, yeah, they're but that's what makes it, right? If I said, oh look, here's this thing, yeah, take it, right? No, that means nothing, right? But when you go out of you, and I'm not when you go out of your way to do all these things, to me that makes it personal, and to me that's what makes these gifts hit home,
Yeah,
right? That they're just more unique.
going the extra mile for that is important.
And it
People
goes
know
back to
they
like
know that.
one of my early comments about Zillow, right? It's like you give that impression from the very first meeting where a lot of agents flip the script and it's all about me and why you should choose me. Where from the very first meeting of a cold lead, you make it all about the person. You're very
Mhm.
personable with them. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's real estate is not a business of properties, right? It's not. It's a business of people, right? The skills the skill set that I bring to the table, yeah, it I have a knowledge of the market, right? I know the product, I know the material, I know what it's built, I know all the buildings, I know all the builders, I know the houses. We all know that, right? But what makes the experience unique, and what makes my job exciting every day, is that the people are different, right? And they have their
mhm,
own unique problems, and they have their ghosts, they have their skeletons that are in the closet. They need to be talked to differently, they need to be spoken to, they need to be catered to. And you cannot scale that model, right? You can't just say we're going to do everybody the same. No, every transaction's a little bit different. And I am really grateful that I ended up in a profession where I love the people, right? I love that experience of getting to know them, of working with them, getting to know things about them that not a lot of people know, getting to know a client intimately in a small amount of
sure.
time, right? That's exciting to me.
So, Andrew, we're going to go through a couple questions here, rapid fire.
Okay.
We're going to fire them at you. Any questions you don't like or don't want to answer, let us know. So, what is your guilty pleasure?
Oof.
Sounds like he's got a lot.
I guilty pleasure. I don't, I'm not guilty. I don't know. I'm not guilty about any of it, right? I'm proud about it. Like, I like a good McDonald's sundae, right? I like that. That's a great value per amount of happiness that it brings me. So I guess that's a guilty pleasure.
I don't know.
McDonald's is
I don't know that that's the
What's a
guilty
guilty pleasure?
pleasure.
Something you're not proud of?
I
I
think
would
we'll
put
we'll allow it.
McDonald's
We'll
in
allow
there.
it. We'll allow
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Like I just have a thing for McDonald's. I'm like, I can't do it. I hate it. Kids like the chicken nuggets and the French fries, but like everything about McDonald's. I mean, I ate a lot of Big Macs and double burgers and all that, like through junior high and high
I,
school. But like, I can't even go to the
and I
store now.
and I agree with that. The soft serve
Sunday,
is a
yeah.
different animal.
I,
It's a different
Hey,
lane.
McDonald's, we apologize. If you want to be a sponsor, we would be happy.
to
All right.
serve your ice cream.
Mhm.
Favorite TV show?
It phases in and out, but it's The Wire.
The Wire's good.
Always.
Yeah, The Wire's an excellent
Always.
TV show.
You probably got some wire business going up with that 1800
Right,
Montana.
right,
Yeah,
right.
for real.
Pretty closely followed by Seinfeld and Scrubs.
Still nobody
Love it.
watches the Squid Game. It's like someone will watch one episode of Squid Game and then they stop.
I love that TV. I like that TV show, but I cannot rewatch it. Right? You
Right,
can
that's
rewatch The
true.
Wire every time, and it
Yep.
makes me
Hell yeah.
happy.
Favorite vacation spot?
Oof. the place I've gone so many times in a row is 10 years in a row has gone to the south of France, which I really love.
Hmm.
It's a little bit about the location. It's a lot about the people who I'm with.
Awesome. Your favorite restaurant, whether it's in DC or outside of
No,
DC.
right now it's Kinship.
Okay.
Excellent food, really warm staff, intimate setting. Yeah, it's got to be Kinship.
You go to a lot of restaurants, so if you like, you're saying Kinship is it right now, that's
There's no
heavy.
Kinship has been it for a while.
Okay.
It's excellent.
And where is Kinship for some of our listeners that don't know?
Just on the other side of the convention center,
Yeah.
9th and L.
Right downtown.
Yeah.
And what are some hobbies out? Well, you do a lot of traveling and drinking. Let me switch up the questions. What's your go-to drink when you're at Kinship or another restaurant?
It depends. I like an old fashioned. I also like a Negroni.
That's probably someone else like that drink. I don't even know
Yeah,
what
Yeah.
it is.
that was
It's an Italian drink.
yeah.
It's a third gin, Campari, and vermouth.
Yeah. Andrew, it's been a pleasure. We'll throw it back to Max, but you're our first guest outside of our little umbrella, Sotheby's International Realty. I don't know, Max.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention that he's with another firm, so you're the
I think I
very
mentioned
first
at the
guest.
top that Andrew's with Compass, and we are in a political city, and we reach across the aisle.
Yeah.
You
It only took you guys what 15 episodes to get to somebody outside the
Yes.
sphere. Yeah.
Well,
Well-
election day was yesterday, so we have to reach across the aisles.
We've
like
been
Max
we've
said.
been jumbling our schedule and stuff. So absolutely, we want to talk to all people in the industry. We're all over the place. We're happy about it. But
And we're
Andrew,
impressed with your book of business. I mean, that's the reason we
yeah,
brought you on. Is like you're well-rounded, great agent. You're well liked by your
oh yeah,
peers. Great,
great career.
client following.
Thank you.
So,
I look at, and again, that's very humbling coming from two people who are so seasoned in the business and whose businesses I very much respect and admire.
Andrew, what kind of advice would you give to a young person or any person who wants to get into the real estate industry?
I think one of the things I think people are getting into real estate for kind of they see the market, they see things going up, and they're in it for a quick hit, right? This kind of like get rich quick thing, and they're not willing to put in the work. One of the things that you have, or that I think you should have when you get into this business, is hustle. Um, when you start in the business, you have no knowledge, you have no experience, you have no clients. The one thing that you can do that I started my career on was hustle. I could always out hustle the person next to me. And I think that agents coming into this business currently are not, they don't have that hustle. They don't have that desire, that push. You know, my when I was in high school, I played football. And
Mhm.
given my size, which you can't tell on this podcast, I am not a large man, right? But I played. I didn't play well, but I played. And at the end of my senior year, they gave 3 awards, and one was for the best player, one was for the most improved, and then they gave out the last one, which was the Rudy Prize. And what
Right.
my college
The little
coach
guy.
said to me is, or high school coach said to me is, he said, "Look, before I tell you what this kid does have, let me tell you what he doesn't have. He doesn't have skill. He doesn't have agility. He doesn't have any reason to be in this sport, but he tries really hard." And that came through. So if you're a new agent, the one thing that you do have the ability over, you don't have the contacts, is you can work hard. And I
Yeah.
know if you work hard and you do it in an earnest fashion, you can succeed in this business.
that's sound advice.
It's good
Very
stuff.
sound advice.
Always.
Somebody does that in basketball. I don't know if it was Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, but one of the main, greatest players ever said that exactly. It's like, you might be better, but you will never outwork me.
Yeah.
I think it was Kobe that said that.
Yeah, look, I will never be the smartest person in the room. I'll never be the best dressed. I'll never be the most charming. But I will be the person that works the hardest.
Andrew, we always give a little gift to our guests, and usually it's a candle, but we're going to skip that this week. We'd like to make a donation on your behalf to the charity of your choice. So, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to and let us know about?
So I'm a big supporter of the arts. I'm also a big supporter of local public school where I do a lot of business, which is Ross Elementary.
Great.
You will see me there on Thursday with what is kind of my godchild, taking her to the Spooktacular event. So really, really proud of that school. It's public school. I went to public school. So I would say Ross Elementary.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.